Live.
All right.
See if you guys got the notification. If not,
James, how do we get it? Oh, I think I got it.
Yeah.
Cool. I can see myself. That's crazy.
Yeah. Inception style.
Oh my god. It's like me with a
Wave
phone.
to the camera.
Hey.
So I just share now?
Yeah, share now.
Okay.
Awesome.
I've actually never lived before.
Oh, cool.
If that's a
It'll be
verb.
your first time.
Share now.
all right, we're going.
It's a little bit of a delay.
It's a little bit of delay. We all
Yeah.
just wait.
I kinda like it.
Here we go.
Cool.
And we happen to find ourselves alive during this full of activity. There's things going on all the time. And now that we have greater access to seeing them happen in front of us, it gets confusing and sometimes painful. But in the end, love sets it all free. So let's love. That's the only answer. From the soul, y'all.
Greetings, world. Welcome to another episode of Meet Them Mondays on Jolt Radio. I'm your host, Cristian Portilla, and today we're live in the studio with James Miille and Alex Mitow, co-creators of Miami's art fair, Superfine. Welcome to the show, James and Alex.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
So I'm really excited. I always get excited for every show. That's the best emotion I can describe. But this fair in particular, to me, is just one of my favorite reasons for Art Basel, because it's like, okay, we have something from Miami that was started here in Miami for us, by us. And so Superfine is a hyper-curated contemporary art fair founded in 2015 that focuses on humanizing the art world by carving out a niche where passionate professional artists and their champions meet eager collectors one-on-one, taking place next month in Miami, December 6th to the 10th. Yes?
Yes.
That is exactly true.
And so the whole attitude behind Superfine is that each fair is like a fun, creative atmosphere where you don't have to feel intimidated as someone who wants to go enjoy art, and you kind of do it in this way where it's more like a people to people type of thing. Welcome everyone. This is who we are. These are the artists, and it's more interactive. Is really how I feel about it. And so now Superfine has expanded to cities like New York, DC, LA, and I'm here in Miami. And so first of all, who came up with the name Superfine? Who came up with that awesome
Oh my god.
name?
We were sitting on our couch in New York
Yes.
2.5 years ago before we moved to Miami, and I think we had a box of Superfine sugar on the table. Don't tell them if they try to sue us for it. And we were going through all these names back. I think I want to call it like Papaya House or something. I don't know.
We
or
were
something.
like saying like the House of
Yeah.
Papaya or something.
We wanted a name that separated us a little bit from the like one syllable, like kind of pretentious fair names, like, and also from being like tied to a specific city. We didn't want to be art Nashville or art anything. We wanted to be art, like a specific name, a specific brand versus a specific city with, where you can't really expand outside of that city. And so we wanted something fun. We wanted something people could connect with. And I don't, long answer to your question, I don't know who came up with it. I think we just bounced ideas.
It was a collaborative effort.
It was?
Yes.
I love it. I love it so much. And so where are you guys from? Where are you from originally? I know you're not Miamians, so let's talk about where you came from and how you ended up here.
So I'll start. I'm a Floridian. I came from the west coast of Florida, Palm Harbor. It's near Tampa, Clearwater area. But I lived in Miami for 5 years, kind of like my formative years. When I was in college, theoretically, but didn't spend all that much time in my classes. I was more exploring the city.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Miami, I moved to New York. I spent some time in Asia in between, and then lived in New York for almost 5 years. And James and I met there. We came back here about 2 years ago, and now we kind of bounce between here, New York, and a couple other places. So
Yeah.
that's my story.
Okay.
Yeah.
And James?
I'm originally a Californian. I grew up in the Bay Area on a 22-acre olive orchard. And then I did the opposite by moving to New York City. I was there for about 3 years. Alex and I met when I was living there, and then we moved down to Miami after we had started Superfine. So now I'm third Miamian.
Nice. And so when the two of you met here, how did the idea to start a business like Superfine begin? Because your backgrounds are different. I know, James, you're an artist, and then Alex, you come from like the entrepreneurship kind of world. So what were you guys doing when you thought like, okay, we're gonna take this direction?
It's a good question. So essentially, yeah, so James is an artist, he's a photographic artist. And I came from food and beverage, so I grew up in the restaurant business, and I'd been a part of and owned multiple restaurants. When I moved to New York, I was first working for like kind of a Food Network restaurant by the Miille's, and I was there doing that for a few months, like 6 or 9 months actually.
I love them.
Yeah, okay, so I worked with them, and then I was actually telling you before the show, so when I lived in Miami before, I was really into Colombian hot dogs, and I went to New York, and I know you're Colombian, so we had a little moment about that. So I opened Los Perros Locos, which was Manhattan's first Colombian hot dog joint, and I had kind of like a street art motif in there. I had You Are New York, which were a local street artist. They did like a Miami meets New York meets Bogota kind of look inside the restaurant. I started kind of orbiting, so that, when I lived in Miami, I would say I was involved in the art scene, like not in any professional way, but I went to every opening, I went to every fair, kind of as Art Basel became a thing, and Wynwood kind of became a thing. Like, I mean, I remember like, you know, passing by like crack houses and you know, and finding a gallery show down an alleyway, which was cool. And so I moved to New York and kind of continued being peripherally involved in art and mainly involved in food. I started doing all the food and beverage for Scope Art Fair in New York.
Okay.
I built out their cafes for 2 years in a row, and I'd known them for a long time too. And then so James was doing his thing. I was kind of disillusioned and kind of done with food and beverage at that point, and more interested in producing art events. So we started kind of marketing James's artwork and doing shows for him and participating in fairs. And we saw a lot of the pitfalls of the art market and trying to break into it, and a lot of the, you know, the glass castle, I'd say, that's built around the art market, which is to say that it's like to make it feel exclusive and push people away, when really you need to be bringing people in. Otherwise, you know, it's not going to work. Who's going to buy the art? So we were like, okay, we need to do something. We need to make this more egalitarian, because it felt like, and it still feels like, it's very polarized. You have these like really, really organic, raw things for artists, but nothing sells, so everyone gets to feel this wonderful sense of community, but at the end of the day, where's the money? Yeah, and then you had the opposite end of it, which is like this impenetrable thing that like I don't feel comfortable at, you don't feel comfortable, people who have enough money to buy art don't feel comfortable walking into some of these, you know, some of these galleries and some of these fairs. So we wanted to create something that kind of bridged that gap, and that's what we really, you know, we set out to do as Superfine, and kind of what we're doing right now.
Beautiful. And James, for you as an artist, when you were trying to break into that, how did you feel, like, as the perspective? What did you want?
Like trying to break into the art world?
And what you wanted to do when you guys were creating Superfine.
Yeah, so I mean, before we started Superfine, it definitely felt kind of like this impenetrable entity. I didn't even really consider in a lot of ways my art as something that could be you know, marketable or sellable, just from seeing gallery shows in New York and like kind of the like exclusivity factor behind it. And then when Alex and I started working together, I kind of helped on the design end of everything. The second year that he did the Scope Cafe, I designed the whole cafe. And then as we kind of migrated into starting Superfine, I took the role as like co-partner, like co-founder of it. So
yeah, and what's interesting though is that you came with that perspective of being an artist and how you felt when you were trying to go to these art fairs.
Yeah, and I think my artwork specifically, it's very accessible in terms of the price and the content of it, so it definitely kind of gave like a good ground for kind of the caliber of artwork that we wanted in the fair.
And since we're on the radio, people can't really see, but what is your art and how could you describe it?
So I'm a photographic artist. My photos are kind of collages, if you will. They're created of anywhere between 2 and 200 photos put together. At the end, they look like one seamless image, supposed to kind of trick your eye into thinking that it's real. And they're all portraiture, and it's also at the fair, so you can see it there.
Okay, awesome. And so let's get into the fair. The fair, you guys market it as like something highly curated, so you're going to see great art by great artists. I'm curious to know, who are the people on your team, or is it yourselves? How are these artists selected?
Shout out to Ashley and Deming. You're listening. So we actually have a great exhibitor relations team. So when it first started, it was more James and myself, and a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls and a lot of meetings. But over the years, we've brought on 2 really wonderful people who are actually both artists as well, which I think helps with the eye of things. Is Ashley G. Garner in New York, who is a longtime friend of mine, who I actually know through Scope Art Fair, and Deming Harriman, who's based here in Miami, and we also kind of know through a different connection. And actually, both of them started out as exhibitors in our fair. They paid to have a booth in the fair. They enjoyed it, and then they put their hat in the ring to be a part of the team. So they do a lot of outreach, a lot of research. We do our best to get the general word out when we enter a market that, hey, Superfine's coming to New York or Miami or DC, and applications are available, and this is what we provide. But then they also do a lot of very targeted outreach, a lot of very targeted emails, phone calls and that's what really, I think, makes it curated. It is a harder path, but I think we have a is it 7-point criteria? 7?
It is a 9-point criteria where they have to fulfill 7 out of 9
exactly.
of the criteria.
So before we even reach out to an exhibitor, or if one reaches out to us or applies with us, we have 9 points that they have to fit in, and they have to at least pass 7 of those, and it includes like the accessibility of the work in terms of price. It includes the content. It includes like professionalism, and I mean, generally, if someone is, not seeming professional in the first few emails, we're kind of just like, let's let this one go. We've learned our lesson with that. Like, we want people who are they're paying money to be in the fair. We want them to attend their booth, to talk to people, to be friendly, to be engaging, to be excited about the work. And that's really the group of exhibitors we've been cultivating over the past couple of years, and it's growing every fair, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many people are on the team now?
Right now it's 5 of us. So
Okay.
it's James and I, Deming and Ashley, who do exhibitor relations, and we have an intern who works in our office here in Miami that does collector-focused outreach. So we have an internal collector society where people who are extra committed and extra excited about art can help us out by filling out a survey and helping us understand our base a little better. And in turn, we offer them perks and complimentary access and things like that. And we have someone who manages that group of people. So that's where we're at right now. We'll probably expand the team after the new year. So pay attention, and if you want to work in art, hit us up.
Did you want to add something to that, James?
No. I mean,
Okay.
he pretty much covered it.
Okay, awesome. I thought you wanted to sneak in a few minutes right there. And does it cost? How much does it cost for these artists that want to be a part of Superfine?
So Superfine, one thing about us that is definitely different from most fairs, we're an artist-driven fair, but we're definitely not an artist-only fair. We allow artists, we say artist-forward galleries, so it can be a typical brick-and-mortar gallery, but if it has a program that really highlights living contemporary artists, or it can be an artist collective. There's a lot of interesting ways that galleries are organizing themselves now besides the usual model. So we, long story short, when we say how many artists are in the fair, we actually have a certain amount of artists and a certain amount of galleries in the fair. And yes, it does cost. We don't negotiate. We have no free entry. No one gets a discount. It's completely fair in that regard, and that's something we've learned from being a part of other fairs. There's a lot of under-the-table dealings, a lot of negotiating. We set our prices where we're happy with the result. We can actually pay to put on a real fair and to market it and to have a proper public relations budget. So it ranges. The least expensive placement is $1,125 for a 6-foot wall for a solo artist, up to about $7,000 for a booth, for one of our largest booths. The average booth is more like $4,500 to $5,000, and those prices may seem like a lot, but they're about a quarter of the price of most fairs. and again, that we just don't negotiate them. That is what they are, and it's part of working with us. Is that's how we operate, and we're very, very, very on top of like, you know, getting us materials on time, getting us images. Every exhibitor submits a curatorial plan. We then sit around and we critique it. We return it to them. That's kind of falls in with the curated element. But we feel the only way to be fair. A lot of people want free opportunities, but if something's free, then how is the organizer getting a budget to actually promote it?
Absolutely. Or how does the event, how does it come to life?
Yeah.
Right.
And still, I get where you're coming from too, because as an artist, you are paying to be there, but you're hopefully going to make a profit by selling your art. You
Exactly.
know?
That's
And
the
having
goal.
people that are going to be there to buy your art.
And that's the opportunity that we offer from it being a paid opportunity. I mean, the money that you put into it directly goes into the marketing for you. I mean, it's you're paying for the value of being there. If no one paid, it would just be a showcase that no one would come to, and there would not be any nice walls or lights or a
Right.
budget for a fair, so it would be out in the middle of nowhere. So
And we've seen those.
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
have
we've seen
those.
those.
No, it's fair.
Yeah.
Totally. Is
It's a
there
fair
a price
fare.
to be a member? Is there a cost?
So we don't. The member is kind of an application process. So they fill out a survey, and then based on the responses to the survey, we will accept or decline. It's kind of subjective. Like we'll accept somebody who's never collected a piece of artwork in their life if they're expressing a lot of interest and being very forthright with their answers and telling us about why they're excited about Superfine and about art collecting. If they're just looking for free tickets, it usually shows really quickly.
It's pretty apparent
Yeah.
they don't have complete answers, and it's very
Mhm.
short, and it's just like, okay, how quickly can I finish this
Yeah.
survey to get my free tickets?
So we decided to make it like an application-based program versus a program that costs something, just because it makes it easier for us to manage. But we're at about 200 members right now, and very committed people, very excited people who come to every show, who collect art. Some of them started without having bought anything. Some of them have museums with their names on them. It's like, you get all kinds of people,
Wow.
so it's a nice spread.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does the demographic look like? Like, who are the people that are coming to collect art at Superfine? And
They look like you.
really?
Yeah.
A little
They look like
Yeah.
you and you and you.
You.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd say the prime demographic is for us is probably between 30 and 50, which still counts as a young collector in the collector world, because a lot of collectors you'll see are, you know, beyond, you know, they're up there. Nothing wrong with that. We're open to everyone.
Right.
But I'd say a lot of our marketing's targeted at that like young professional crowd. But honestly, I've seen, you know, 22, 23-year-olds buy art. I've seen people that are 70, 75 come to the fair and be excited by it. Nothing we're doing is excluding anybody, so that's kind of our thing. We're not presenting art that's so edgy that people are just put off and they don't want to be there. We're also not presenting like milk toast, like really boring stuff, you know.
Yes.
It's all very original, very exciting, but like targeted to, a pretty broad demographic, but focused on that like 30 to 50 age range, I'd say.
And James, what kind of art are we going to see there for people that want to attend? Like, what types of art
Kind of-
are there? Yeah. Like,
So-
what's the selection look like?
I would say overall, it's very figurative art. In terms of the price range, most of the artwork is between $100 and $5,000, and then nothing in the fair is over $10,000. So that's
Very
kind of,
strict on that.
yeah, we're very strict on that. And also the percentage breakdown of the art is also mandatory for every exhibitor. So when an exhibitor sends us artwork and it's all like $9,000-$10,000 every piece, we're like, no. You gotta show lesser stuff. It's very contemporary. We say that we're a very contemporary, very curated fair. The artwork, it's all colorful and very it's
Vibrant?
No. Yeah, is the word.
It's not all colorful.
It's not all
just-
colorful. No, we have black
Yeah.
and white things too. But it's all very vibrant, eye-catching, but also tells a story, makes you think. So we say that it's the intersection of accessible and challenging. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you should think when you see it. It shouldn't just be like, oh, that's a pretty picture for my wall. It should make you think, but it should also be accessible enough that it's not pushing you away by being too conceptual. I would say it's like unabashedly forward.
Okay.
So it's like in your face, whether, you know, definitely a lot of color. I'd say we're high in the color, but like overall it's forward. It's something that like brings you in and is exciting. So.
And what made you decide, or how did you think when you were putting this business plan together, what prices were appropriate for art?
I would say a lot of it is actually our own taste in collecting art. I mean, Alex and I are addicted to collecting art.
We collect a lot of art.
We are spreading the message of other people collecting art a lot, so we convince ourselves as well. But kind of just looking at ourselves being young professionals, what we are drawn to in terms of the sizes of the pieces and the prices and the content and all of that. I mean, really, when you see something, you're seeing our eye as well.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And like I think 10,000 is a nice round number, and it's a number where if someone's a very serious art collector and they come to the fair and they have the budget for it and they find a piece that's larger and like very exciting to them, that they don't have trouble spending it. And I mean, in New York this May we sold a lot of pieces at the 10,000 range.
Wow.
Miami actually, I think last year as well.
Mm-hmm.
But 70% being under 5,000 and original work starting at $100 or $200 really brings in that young collector demographic. I mean, we had like my favorite story to share is like in New York this May, everybody on our team that was like paid to be there at the fair ended up spending more than they were paid to be there on art. They're like, their wives or husbands would come
like,
in and they'd be like, I want that one. I mean, our publicists,
our publicists, the wall purveyors, our bartender,
our bartender bought a piece. Our sound tech bought like 3 pieces. Like everybody came in and was like, you know, I mean, the people that do the walls and lights in New York, she came, she's like, I've done, you know, walls for hundreds of fairs. I've never bought anything, and I just bought something here. So that kind of like, it's heartwarming.
It's very heartwarming. Cool. Our exhibitors too. So a lot of the times when an exhibitor sells a piece, they go right and they're like, I'm gonna buy something else.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's like the culture that you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like we call it commerce with a conscience. So it's like, you know,
commerce with a conscience. Yeah, it speaks to the culture that you're creating, and also you know, as an artist, or if you're starting off, or if you're setting your art for more accessible, whatever it may be, when you support someone else who's also like on the road to getting their passion off the ground and doing things like that, it just kind of shows like the connection between the community, you know. And you build friendships, you build relationships, and you learn more about art and about the people that are there. And I'm curious to know what are these people working? What are some of the backgrounds of the people, like the professionals or the people that come and buy this art?
I would say one of our biggest, I guess I don't know if the demographic or psychographic, I don't know. One of our biggest, is probably entrepreneurs. So people who have made their own way, young professionals in that regard. We do see a good amount of like the banker, finance guy. I mean, we're really like indiscriminate. It's like, do you love art? You know, are you excited by this?
And who doesn't?
We have like frat bros who are like, I love this. I want it so bad. I want to learn about it. I want to learn about art history. And we're like, thank you. You know, we have a huge LGBT base. A lot of our programming in the fairs is geared towards LGBT. It's close to our heart, but also like a very important market that I think we are marketers at our core. That's what our job is for the exhibitors who are paying us to be there. So we have to pay attention to like the demographics, and LGBT is huge because, you know, it's people who have dual incomes, who appreciate quality and taste and individuality, and it's a really important demographic to focus on for us. So.
Absolutely, which we're gonna get into that in a little bit, but about like who the demographic is, and the LGBT and the programs that are happening around Superfine. But who are some of these artists? What are their backgrounds? Where do they come from? Are they usually from the city, or are they international? How does that work?
Okay, take that one?
Yeah.
So as I just wrote about this in an answer. So I like to call it the snowball effect. Whereas when we started in Miami, it was actually the first year was pretty New York. It was like a New York show in Miami with Little Miami. The second year was really Miami. This year is about a quarter Miami exhibitors in South Florida, and then 3/4 just all over the globe. I mean, we have 3 from Japan, we have Brisbane, Australia, we have Nigeria, Belgium, New York, a lot from New York, LA, a lot. So the cool thing is when we go from market to market, because people enjoy the community we're building and also the success they gain from it, we're gathering a group and then they go to the next place. So you'll have Miami exhibitors in New York. I already have probably like 7 or 8 Miami exhibitors signed on for New York in May 2018. Yeah, and New Yorkers want to be in Miami, and it's like a cool mix. We never want to be a purely local fair. We want to provide that like interaction. I want a collector to see, you know, work by people from all over the world, and I also want the exhibitors, and I love the community they're building. Like, we see it on Facebook and Instagram. Like, we don't keep track of it, and then we just go on randomly.
Suddenly we're like, oh, that exhibitor and that exhibitor are friends.
They know each other.
Yeah.
They're like collaborating on something. It's pretty cool. So,
Dope. So these collaborations come from people meeting at your fairs and stuff like that.
which is nice.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really nice because, you know, we do want to make sure that there's always a very local element to it. We know that specifically in Miami, during Miami Art Week / Art Basel, Miami artists really do not have an outlet to show their work. It's all
Isn't that
international.
crazy?
It's so crazy. It's Miami Art Week, and you do not see Miami art. So we try to make sure that there's always, you know, at least that, you know, strong feeling that you go in and you feel Miami art, but we also want it to be international. So people who are locally here, who go to a lot of art shows in Miami year-round, do also see some artists that they haven't seen or galleries that they haven't seen. Same for New York. I mean, you know, New York, it's expensive, and the gallery programs in New York are very competitive. So for an artist to be able to kind of take their career into their own hands and exhibit their work themselves is really valuable for them.
Absolutely. I'm actually so glad you brought that up because a lot of people, when you talk about Art Basel, I find that it's like this sort of enigma, like, what is Art Basel? A lot of people are like, you know, I know something's coming, but what is it? What is Art Basel? You know, so I kind of want to educate, like, the listeners out there. What is Art Basel? Can you tell them?
Sorry.
Yeah, James, Alex, go for it.
We try to steer towards Miami Art Week over Art Basel.
Okay.
And I, for years and years and years and years, I said Basel. We're going to Basel.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone does.
Or
and
Art Basel.
Yeah,
Art
or Art
Basel.
Basel. I got an email today that was spelled Basil. And we really try to go towards Miami Art Week just because Art Basel is one commercial enterprise. It's one fair. I understand why colloquially everyone says Art Basel. It's easier, but really every time, and I didn't like correct this because I actually wanted to talk about it here, but I really think like Miami Art Week is more accurate to what it's become, which is a week. I mean, you have great fairs coming up. You have Prism, which is an African American fair.
Yes.
There's an Africa fair, I think, also.
Spectrum.
Yeah.
Is it Red Dot something?
No, those have been around
are
forever.
also-
Yeah, but there's another new one this year. I can't remember. But there's a lot that's coming up and has been coming up around Miami Art Week. And I think that we need to like take away the Basel name.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like the ones that are now like springing up and homing
Yeah.
on. Okay,
I,
got you.
but I like calling it like that, and then sometimes our exhibitors will you know share on their social. I'm going to Art Basel,
Or I'm
and
going to be in Art Basel, and you're not going to be in Art
No,
Basel.
you're not going to be in Art Basel. And like that's kind of something we're trying to make clear is like it's not Basel. I have nothing against Basel that I want to talk about right now. And no, I mean they've gotten younger over the years. They've got new directorship. They're you know trying to appeal to a different class, but it's you know it is the epitome of that like stodgy convention center kind of thing that we're really not a part of. So when you know you work really hard on your business and your identity and your brand, and then it becomes another brand just by virtue of being at the same time. Like we try to just be like Superfine during Miami Art Week, you know. So yeah, Basel like started out as one fair in Miami Beach that you know different dealers and people who were trying to promote the city brought it there, and then I watched it starting in 2006. I think it was my first Basel. I watched it being that, and then maybe a few pop-ups in the Design District, and then Wynwood became a thing, and then other fairs. There was Scope and Pulse, and it became huge.
Right.
It's a great thing. I think it needs to kind of like re-identify again. Because it's now just become like an excuse to party, and like I think it should still kind of be about art.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where we feel.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad you gave us a Art Basel
Yes.
101. We're gonna head to a quick break.
Okay.
But we'll be right back. Enjoy this song and stay tuned. I love that because it's true what you said. Like Art Basel's the general term. I remember we're still live on Facebook. Art Basel's like the general term. So we're all like Art Basel, and even I do that too. Like
No, I know we do
people
it too. Yeah.
If you say Art Basel, like
It's a very colloquial
I
term.
thought about saying something in the email, but I was like, no, let's talk about it because I think it is interesting, and it's not a dig on you at all. Everyone says
no,
Art Basel.
and I'm
but, like,
we
familiar
sometimes
because
say
I've
it
been
too,
going.
yeah.
We're
But
doing
it's-
the 777 building, the Caribbean exhibit that you guys just spoke
Yes.
about. I think the Prism Fair is it?
Okay, Prism.
Prism.
Yeah.
We're
That's-
doing that. We're collaborating with them for like a live broadcast in like a lobby.
Awesome. It's one of Miille Mana's buildings, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
I think they just like bought that out or something. So pretty cool.
Yeah, we like it being like, and obviously there's like some cultural cachet of Basel.
Right.
We actually play it down. It's something we do pretty frequently. Like we'll often like create a harder road for ourselves, like just to make it.
It would be so much easier to just be like Basel. You would be like, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
So
and a lot of people don't even know. I've been going to Art Basel since I was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I'm 17, and like it was just a thing to me. And back in the day, it was sketchy to go. It was like here, like you went to galleries, you saw art, you had wine, like you did these things. And so Art Basel was like just that thing, like how you call, I don't know, Kleenex, like
instead of
it's a
tissue.
tissue. I need a tissue.
Yeah. So that's kind of what it is.
I was just thinking that like 2 days ago or something with Advil. I was thinking like, oh, I need an Advil. It's like I need an aspirin.
Ibuprofen.
An ibuprofen. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
No, it's like it definitely like I totally understand it. Like I just like maybe it's my own like futile effort. I just try to like.
No, and it's better for you. If there's anyone who's gonna educate us on it, it's definitely people that are involved. And
I'm always really happy when like we have this kind of core group of supporters, and we want that group to grow in every city. And I'm really happy when someone's like, I'm excited for Superfine. I can't wait till I have a piece at Superfine. It's not like can't wait for Basel. Like it's like.
Yeah, I love that. No, that's so true, and I'm so glad we brought it up because it's like now you correct it and you said that's what things are changing. Like terminology is such a big thing, like how that plays into like the whole Art Basel. But I guess in essence, to be able to speak to the general public, it's like Art Basel, and we're gonna break that down for you because I put it in the like what I wrote and stuff. Like you don't know what Art Basel is, like you're gonna get it out because I know it's like super fine.
Are we going back?
We're gonna be going back soon.
Yeah, about 20 seconds.
How's it going? Are you guys feeling good?
What's that? Yeah. Are we good? Are we talking right? Or
yeah, you guys are doing absolutely amazing. Yeah. For some reason, I don't know, John, if you hear it as loud as I do, but I kind of hear him loud.
Yeah, you're good. That's perfect.
All right, cool.
Okay.
I like it.
You're going on the.
Yeah. I guess it's because it was like on one side, but. Welcome everyone. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Mitow Mondays on Jolt Radio. I'm here with the founders of Superfine, James Miille and Alex Mitow. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How was that little break?
It was good.
Yeah,
very refreshing.
Yeah.
Good. Our voices are caught up. We're good.
We were just getting into about the demographics and the people that attend and the LGBT community and just like different people that attend, but I wanted to kind of bring that back to you guys because you're partners in business, but you're also partners in love. And so I thought it was very interesting when I first found out about your story, what it's like to work with the person you love. You see them, at work, you see them at home. How do you differentiate that, and how does that partnership balance itself out?
We're still figuring that out.
Yeah?
Definitely still
figuring that out. I mean, for us it is tough because we do work at home a lot. Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can you
cool.
hear yourself?
Not really, but I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
We work at home often, and we live near our office, so it's difficult to sometimes find the barrier between work and home. I mean, we have an idea at like 11 o'clock at night, like laying in bed and like, oh hey, like we should totally like to get the exhibitors, we should do this thing, or we should we should release this news release tomorrow. I mean, it does sometimes you have to cut it off, and we're trying to actually figure out how to cut that off and like have that time that you're not working.
Right.
But creatively, I think it's great. I mean, we're like we finish each other's sentences, but not just about personal stuff, like about business, which is great. Like we know, like James does a lot of the visual, creative language of the fair, and then I kind of also. So I kind of have like a brain for that, but not a hand for that. Like when I was a kid, I had to like use a pencil grip to like draw. I can't.
He sees it in his head, but it's kind of hard to translate that to someone else, and I can translate that because we're together. So we kind of are able to jump ideas back and forth that if you heard us jumping these ideas back and forth, it probably wouldn't make sense. But it comes out cool. So. And
like today, we had a graphic that like we had an idea for the facade of the fair. When you actually see it from the street, it's huge. It's like a 1,000 square foot mural. And James sent over a version of it. I was like, I'm not really sure. And then I sent it back, and he goes, no, this one I really feel good about. I'm like, I'm sure it's fine. I don't need to see it anymore. Like, I know it's fine.
He can
like,
tell by the tone of my voice. If I'm excited
voice.
about it, he'll think it's good. And so.
That's really cool.
Definitely positive.
And so in the partnership, who does more of what? Like, James, what is the role that you take on in terms of like work and stuff like that? How do you balance each other out then?
Yeah, so as Alex mentioned, I'm in charge of most of the visuals of the fair, so all of the branding, the website, the photos, all that. But beyond that, I also I kind of take a role in a lot of the management of the fair and our staff and everything. And then I also, what else do I do? We both do so much. It's hard to kind of like put it into boxes. Alex, he takes care of a lot of the logisticals of it and the marketing. We work on the marketing together, but then he kind of is the voice of Superfine, and I'm the look of Superfine, if you will.
Yeah.
But it definitely intertwines.
It intertwines.
Where there's times I'm like, James, you write this release. I can't think about it right now, and sometimes he does what I think I do well better than I do. It's like it's sometimes.
And sometimes I'm like having trouble like figuring out like some graphic or something. He's like, well, what if you just like, and he like puts some squares on a paper, and I'm like, okay, I see it. And
you get it. You see the vision.
And then
so it definitely intertwines.
That's so cool.
Yeah, generally I'm like logistics and kind of marketing strategy, and then you're a lot of other things. And James can actually manage. I'd say you manage our staff a little more hands-on than I do.
Yeah. I know.
I have a lot of years of management, and I'm kind of like
he's a little burned out.
Yeah.
So I manage our staff. Yes.
That's really nice. You guys have a really good balance going on.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that like it is important, and something we're working on is just having like defined roles, and like obviously like having that crossover, but being like, okay, this is my thing, this is your thing, and like just kind of keeping that up is really important.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Awesome. And so where's Superfine gonna be? I know it was in Midtown, like the Midtown area last year. Are we doing it in the same place?
It's gonna be in the same place.
I'm saying we, like,
No, you're part of the team. You're on board.
Yeah. You know I'm in there, Luz. Is it gonna be at that CrossFit gym?
Yep,
it is. Again?
Yep, so it's gonna be at 56 Northeast 29th Street. That's in Midtown Miami, on 29th Street, and it's Northeast 1st?
It's between Northeast 2nd and North Miami.
North Miami, okay, yeah.
Okay, and how did you guys end up at a CrossFit gym? Like, how did that work? That was kind of cool.
Yeah, so we were actually working with an event producer last year, and now we're handling our logistics in-house. We were working with the producer who was a friend of ours, and she knew the guys at CrossFit. She was doing CrossFit, and we were looking for a space on the mainland in Miami, but like we had been in, I know we were in like Little Haiti, Little River the year before, but we wanted to be more in the center of the action. So we were looking around, and people get like Basel bucks, and they're like, oh, now this random building is now worth $1 million because people want it,
which is otherwise just going to
otherwise it's just going to be sitting there empty. So it's hard sometimes to find a space, but she had a good relationship with them. We connected with them. We developed a really good relationship with the owners of the gym, and it's worked out for us. We pull all the equipment out. It doesn't feel like a gym. We do a giant signage mural on the front. We build a garden. We build a garden in the back. So it will not feel like a gym, but that's what it is.
No, it definitely didn't. I couldn't believe that there was even a CrossFit there when I went to it.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely turns into an empty box, and then we build the fair from that with additional structural walls and lights and all that.
No, it's beautiful though. It completely transforms, and I really love that. And I thought it was just interesting how like those two. I'm like, how did this happen? But let's talk about some of the events, some of the activations. What can people expect? We were talking earlier about the ice cream social that someone outside had heard.
Someone was excited for in the hall.
Yes. So, a couple of cool things. I mean, some things we've done before. We did the ice cream social last year for the first time, and then we did it again in New York. This year, we're partnering with the Pam Young Contemporaries, and also Time Out Miami will be co-hosting it. And we'll have local ice cream, and we're actually doing a really cool, and you guys who are listening out there should come and do this. We're doing an Artstagram challenge, where essentially we'll give you an Instagram scavenger hunt if you complete it, and you'll be entered to win a $500 artwork voucher, which is good for anything in the fair.
Wow.
Yeah, but anything, $500. And or if you get something more expensive than that,
it can be a
discount.
credit to something more than 500, but there's also lots of stuff that's 500 and under. So.
Right, which is cool. We want to build young collectors, so that's how we're doing it. That will be a lot of fun. The Midnight Vernissage, I'm really, really excited about because it's the first year we're doing it, and we're partnering with a company called Sora, which is a lighting house. They do really, really chic, sexy, high-end lighting. Not like super, super high-end, but it's was originally developed for museums and for that quality of lighting, but then you can use it in your home. They're acting as the host. They'll have an activation in the back garden. They have a lounge back there, and there'll be essentially you walk in and you get a glass of champagne with cotton candy. We'll have the harpist from the Biltmore is playing harp in the middle of the fair. And then we also have this performance. Yeah, it's fun though because it's like a mix. Like we want it to be kind of whimsical and kind of like you're sneaking in, like you're not supposed to be there.
Yeah, so we have the harpist from the Biltmore, but also like costumed creatures,
people in like animal costumes that are performance artists from New York, Veronica Rabinovich. So there's going to be kind of that mix, like juxtaposition. It's not going to be like it's
elegant and weird at the
elegant
same
and weird,
time.
yeah. So really, really excited about that one. The ice cream social you mentioned on Saturday. So we're branching out in a couple ways this year. So the Midnight Vernissage is our first and Miami's first, which is cool. And then we're also doing our first film series at the fair. So we're partnering with Outshine, which is a Miami-based LGBT film festival. It used to be called Mitow. They recently rebranded, and I like the rebranding a lot more. And so they'll actually be curating a series of short films, which we've been lucky enough to see a few of, and we actually just got an email from Victor, the director, today with some more, so we can check those out.
Oh yeah, no, I'm really excited.
A little, not Netflix and chill, but a little bit.
Oh my god,
film festival and chill.
Yeah. We've been to their festivals in Miami and Fort Lauderdale this year because they do one in Miami, one in Fort Lauderdale, and they've been fantastic.
The films are excellent,
incredible films. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're really excited about that. It's going to be about 7 short films. It's on Saturday, the 9th of December.
Yeah, this is all these activations are taking place the December 6th through the 10th.
Yeah, and most of the events we're mentioning, the evening events of the fair, are evening events. So they're like 7 to 11 p.m. The films are 6:30 to 8 on Saturday, and then they're followed by RT, which is our LGBT soiree, which we hosted last year with the lady Miss Kier. She DJ'd. This year, I'm still getting the DJ, but the part of the proceeds go to Pride Lines, which is a LGBT youth center here in Miami, which we're really excited to partner with them, and they've been really supportive and great people to work with. So those are great. The Dolphins. So we talked about them.
Yes. I'm so glad. We're connected.
Because
I was just about to bring that up. So I remember you guys tagged me on Instagram, and I'm a super animal lover, and I saw that it was a dolphin that had painted something, and I'm like, hold up a second. How did you guys think of this partnership?
Well,
and it's called Dolphins Plus MMR.
Marine Mammal Responder. So it's a rescue organization that they rescue dolphins and whales stranded in a 10,000 square mile radius of South Florida.
And then, so how did first of all, the dolphins are painting. How does that even happen? One, how did you guys even think about doing this too? And I'm so excited. When I saw this, I was like, wait a minute, what? This is beautiful. And wait, are the dolphins selling their artwork? They're selling their artwork at Superfine too.
And then the proceeds go to the Marine Mammal. They're getting a percentage of the proceeds on the opening night of the fair as well. So I kind of, in addition to an art and food background, I definitely have a marine background too. I've been fishing since I was a kid. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to count now. I don't know. And I was diving for a long time. And so when I went to school here in Miami, I was part of a scuba diving club and met a lot of friends that way. So a lot of my friends went on to marine careers. One of my friends is a trainer and researcher at Dolphins Plus in Key Largo. So it kind of started last summer. We would just kind of stop by and visit the dolphins. We made friends with them. We had some friends in town. We'd be like, hey, her name's Kelly. Like, hey, Kelly, are you around? We're gonna stop by and see the dolphins. And then we had a friend in town this spring, and we went to see the dolphins. And she mentioned that they paint, and I was like, well, we should get them to paint at the fair. Why not? And I don't know if they
that on you guys.
Right. And I don't know if they expected us to follow up or if we expected them to follow up, but we both did, and they're super excited. Which to me, when you work with like a charity or an organization, like how excited they are and how willing they are to like, you know, to be involved really dictates the success of the partnership. And we've gotten to go swim with the dolphins twice. We did a video. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, of course.
Mashable featured that video, or they recut it so it reached millions of people. It's actually viral in India right now. So
viral in India.
Yeah.
Superfine.
Right. So the dolphins are spreading all over, and it's really cool. And it's basically
such a beautiful cause.
It is, yeah, and it's neat because, you know, this is an organization that they have dolphins at like a free range kind of facility in Key Largo where you can swim with them and interact with them. But it's not just for like the selfie with the dolphin thing. You get their motto is connect to protect. So you get to understand these creatures, and then you understand why they should be conserved, protected, and not just why, but how. And one of the ways is by going to Superfine, you know, purchasing one of their artworks and having the story behind it for your own. And then also just even coming, part of your ticket price will go there. So,
beautiful.
Yeah.
And if you're listening and you actually want to see that, the Superfine IG, it's actually on there, Superfine dot fair or period fair.
Superfine dot fair.
And I remember when I saw that, and I love the idea, and I thought like, you guys are in everything. Even like even the dolphins are like trying to be a part of Superfine.
Art for all. It's
art
really art for all.
So much. And excuse me. So I want to get into a little bit more about Superfine and like the tickets and how can people be a part of it for the listeners out there, for the artists, for like how can we get the community involved? How can they come? Where can they get tickets? What can they see? Like, you know, we want people to come and see this fair, you know, part of Miami.
100%. So tickets are available on Eventbrite. It's superfinemiami.eventbrite.com. And also, if you just go on Eventbrite, we do multiple events for each of the evening events, so we show up a lot. So if you just go on Eventbrite and you click on arts, you're going to see something Superfine on there. But the main listing is superfinemiami.eventbrite.com. Day passes are $10 for the fair. Evening passes vary. The most expensive one is the Midnight Vernissage. That's $50. But the others are between $15 and $20. And they all have some added value to them. Like the film festival, you get popcorn and a drink, which is cool. So for a $20 ticket, you get like incredible films you can't see anywhere else. You get popcorn, you get a drink, and you get a whole entire art fair. And that's kind of in keeping with what we were saying before about, you know, we do charge the exhibitors a fair price. It's not a free lunch thing. We don't give away a lot of tickets. We are giving some away on the air today, which is cool. Or on the air?
Kind of on the air.
Okay.
Kind of on the air.
I'll let Christian tell you about that. But yeah, we do charge a fair price to see the fair because it is a production. It's exciting and there's great art, and you know, and we want to give it some value versus it being like a free event that everyone goes and it's, you know, it's not really supporting anybody, and like so we definitely at the end of the day, like that's how we make our living. So we do charge something. Yeah.
No, beautiful. There's no shame in that.
No.
Absolutely not. And I said this earlier, but the fair has expanded. And I want to talk about the expansion of it and how you are taking it to these different cities. And I want to know about that experience, but I'm also curious to know like how the attitudes toward art vary from the cities that you're going to, and what have you learned from these cities, or maybe you, James, as an artist, like what do you see when you go to these different cities and how people react? How does Miami differ from that, you know?
I would say specifically with Miami Art Week, Miami is definitely, it's a crazy time. So, you know, people who come to Miami during the week, they're going to 12 or 15 different events, like sometimes a day, but sometimes, you know, the whole weekend, and they're going to parties and they're drinking, and then there's people who aren't, who are serious about collecting the art. So we're trying to, you know, harness that crowd, and then also be fun so, you know, people can enjoy it. So for Superfine itself, it's definitely more programming focused in Miami, and then in New York, what we see is kind of more of that, like, you know, just people out doing whatever they're doing that day, and it's like, oh, there's, you know, an event tonight, or there's a couple events tonight, and Superfine's one of them, and, you know, they've heard about it before, like with, you know, our, you know, lead up promotion, but then, you know, it's kind of a bit more just like part of their day instead of like this weekend is all Art Basel.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or Superfine.
Or Superfine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Or
All
Miami Art
Superfine.
Week.
Or Miami Art Week, yes.
And what's the latest city that you expanded to most recently?
Well, we're working in Washington, D.C. right now, so I'll
Okay.
actually fly to D.C. on Friday to finalize our venue there.
Okay.
And D.C. is super exciting. I have kind of, I would say I have a base there, but I've spent a lot of time there, just here and there, and then us going back and forth from Miami to New York, sometimes by car. We'll stop for a couple days in D.C. It's really exciting because it doesn't have an art fair right now, but it has a lot of people that are really receptive to it. It has an art culture, an art scene, has a lot of educated people, a lot of people who are hungry for culture, but like nothing to fill it. So it's the first city we're really going to that's like that, you know. I mean, granted, like, I'm not saying museum. I mean, obviously they have incredible museums in DC.
Right.
But in terms of like an art
Like an
buying,
indie type of vibe,
yeah, and I'm like really excited to bring it there and see the response. And then after that, LA. So LA, we're working. Whereas for early 2019, we'll have a fair there.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying something about a dinner event series that you also did, like an international.
In Mexico City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mexico City.
Hmm?
Yeah. What was that about?
So we started exploring Mexico City a couple years ago. We love it down there. It's like one of our favorite cities, and it's 2.5 hours from Miami. Everyone should go. Tickets are cheap. It's cheap to stay. It's a wonderful city. My favorite art scene in North America.
Wow.
It's really, really good.
In New York, LA, and Miami, like you see a lot of the same artists just because they hop
It's a
between the
triumvirate.
cities.
Yeah.
But Mexico City, it's all like different stuff that you've never seen before.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Like DF, like.
DFA, yeah. They actually
Yeah.
they rebranded though.
It's CDMX.
CDMX. You're not supposed to say DFA anymore.
I am
It's,
sorry. I'm sorry.
It's we went there and then we went a year later and they're like
The name
don't
changed,
say it anymore. We're like, okay, sorry. CDMX. But no, we love it down there. Great art, great music, great culture, and like inexpensive and really, really great. So we've last year in February during Sonomako, which is that you call their Basel.
They're super fun.
Yeah, well, it's actually like people say Mako the same way they say Basel here. They'll be like, "Oh, I'm going for Mako," but there's a few other fairs. We actually had considered doing a fair down there. We went through a lot of steps to do it, and then we kind of looked at it and realized we weren't sure we could give our exhibitors the same value we do there. But we were doing the next best thing, so we're doing a pop-up there in February of this coming year during Sonomako, where essentially 2018. So it's the only thing we're really doing at no cost for our exhibitors because we're doing it for the ones who've been a part of the fair at least 3 times. We're bringing them down with a few of their artworks and displaying them in a pop-up art show inside of a venue that one of our Mexico City-based exhibitors that does all of our fairs. It's called Nooks Art. We're doing it in one of their venues, and we're just kind of having a little more casual pop-up. It's not, we're hoping for art sales. We're hoping, for exhibitors' sake, we don't make anything off of it. We're hoping for that, but mostly just to have a presence and connect and, to be in Mexico City for a week. Like, it's great. So we're excited for
it's
it.
It's a great excuse.
Oh, yeah. Basically, it's an excuse to go to Mexico City.
No.
But it expands our circles and, brings Superfine to a whole other area. So
you're doing so much, but I'm like, what's next? What have you thought about adding?
Tokyo and Sydney.
Tokyo, Sydney, Toronto,
Tokyo, Sydney, London. Like, those are kind of our if we go international, those are what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So
beautiful, and they would also be fairs.
Yeah,
so they would be full scale fairs.
That's kind of like we'll get through 2018, 2019, and we're thinking 2020. So that's like kind of our thought right now.
We keep forgetting it's
sometimes
2017.
I forget what year it is. Yeah,
you guys are ahead of your time.
We're always literally.
So you're thinking about expanding over there in the future, and what will people see? Will there be more activations? Will it be strictly fairs? Like, what have you thought about in terms of the brand and what other things you can do?
Well, we've often started with I guess you'd say an activation, like in a smaller event in a city before we go there in full. But ultimately, the goal is to bring a fair there because the fair is our economic driver. Like, the events generally they're to lose money to gain attention.
It's more of a
marketing expense. Yeah. But so we do eventually want to bring the fairs. So, for example, Mexico City, we had, like I said, considered a fair. We did an event there last February. We did a collector's dinner. And we just made kind of a hard decision to not fully bring a fair there, but to keep our foot on the ground there a little bit. But we do, again, we have a responsibility to our exhibitors, and that's to put them in situations where we think they're going to sell their art and be economically sustainable. And I think Mexico City has an incredible market. I just wasn't totally sure of our ability to tap into it. But if we look at a place like, let's say, Sydney or even Tokyo, where we feel like we are giving our exhibitors that leg up that they deserve.
Because there's a market there for that.
Yeah.
People are interested in that already.
Exactly. We want to make sure there's a market, and we want to make sure that, we can reach that market. And so that's kind of the next step, is like eventually bringing fairs to some other cities outside of the country.
Okay. And what has been difficult about like this expansion and taking the fair to other cities? What are things that you have learned in your partnership, like the business partnership, maybe from an artist perspective for you, James?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's originally when we did the first fair in Miami, we were living in New York, so we came down maybe a month or 5 weeks or so before the fair, and we're kind of doing some on the ground, hands-on work to get cleaning. We were cleaning because the first venue that we did was
rough and raw.
I love that one.
Yeah,
it was the coolest.
It was a really cool venue,
Yeah.
but definitely needed some love. So when we were first doing the fair, we kind of felt like we needed to be in the city that we were doing the fair in. So we actually moved from New York down to Miami after we did the first Superfine, thinking that, being here, like physically in the same city, it's, going to help so much. And then what we found out when we did the fair in New York this year in May was living in Miami, it was not difficult to do a fair somewhere else while living in a different city. And now we're doing 4 fairs in a year in 4 different cities. We're kind of realizing that so much of our business does happen online, on computers, emails, Google Drive, all of that. So doing new cities, it's a matter of visiting the city in person, finding a venue, maybe going a couple times before the fair actually happens, but so much of it happens online that it's pretty doable.
I definitely think that it is important, and that's one of the reasons we went into DC and why we're going to LA. It is important to kind of visit the city a bunch of times with an open mind to understand not even the tangible aspects, not the stuff that you can see on paper, but actually feel the city and feel how it moves. That sounds kind of cheesy, but it's true.
No,
and with New York, we obviously knew that. In Miami, I think I knew that, and then having that in DC and LA a little bit, and even Mexico City, even though we're not doing a full scale one. I don't think we would just look at it on paper and then choose the city. We would go there, feel it out a few times, go kind of on vacation, and then once you have the venue locked in, and that's something we really learned. I mean, for example, the venue you said, the first one that was really cool, was simultaneously the most money we've ever spent on a venue.
Wow.
But the venue was free. Like, we didn't rent it, but we spent a lot of money to bring it up to even where it was up to, which was still not even completely
it was like an abandoned building or something like that.
So we've found that the more budget we dedicate to the venue, the more we get out of it, and it seems kind of obvious, but like things like air conditioning, things like bathrooms, Wi-Fi, all that, they add up. So if you can get that all in one package, and you're dealing with one person on that. A lot of people think about events and they look at us and they say, "You guys are event producers." No, we're not. Yeah,
so much of what we're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, we're mainly marketing and curators.
I'd say we're art marketers and curators. Yeah. I think the events are incidental.
Yeah. So really, if you're looking at kind of a list of the things that we have to do before a fair, we want to have as few production elements as possible. We want everything that we're doing is kind of coming up with the different ways that we're marketing and advertising, promoting the fair, versus dealing with air conditioning or Wi-Fi, which is both of things that we've been dealing with today.
They're the small details that you kind of sometimes can overlook because they seem obvious, but the most important. But it seems like you guys have everything on lock. So we're kind of getting to the end of our interview, but how can people stay in touch? How can they find you online? Like, how can they follow you on the ground?
Yeah.
What are the handles?
We're at online. We have a great website, a lot of great content, blogs, vlogs, everything. It's www.superfine.world. There's no .com after .world. It's .world.
Yes.
And then on Instagram, it's superfine.fair. Facebook, if you look at Superfine, we're going to be one of the first things that comes up. And then we don't use Twitter much, but the rest of those are great.
Okay, beautiful. And if people want to reach out to you directly or they want to be a part of it, how can they reach out to you?
So if you go to the website and you click on, if you wanted to exhibit in the fair, you click on the exhibit tab. There's a lot of information on exhibiting in the fair and the application process. That would be the best way to do it, or to email exhibit@superfine.world. If you have just general questions, you could do info@superfine.world. And if you are media, it's
media
at superfine.world.
It's very straightforward.
Yes, and then the website again has so much info on it, so definitely get into that and read through it and learn about us, and then give us a holler.
Absolutely. And actually, for the listeners out there, I'm doing a giveaway. That's what we were talking about earlier on my Instagram, at Rome Free Rights. And all you have to do is follow both of us. Follow Superfine, follow me, and tag a human that you want to go with, and you'll be there at Superfine. But it was such a pleasure having both of you.
Yeah, it was such a
It
pleasure.
was so great being here.
Congratulations on everything that you've been doing. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone out there listening. Make sure to tune back next Monday, November 20th, on Jolt Radio for a new episode of Meet the Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Those conversations that you have that are so organic, and you look at the time and you're like, oh.
I know. We tried to be concise.
No, but it was so good. There's just so many elements to what you guys do. It's such a beautiful thing, though. There's levels to it, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, it's got me checking my phone now.
Oh yeah, because we're still live.
That's so funny.
still
My
live.
hands are moving.
We're still live for all you Facebookers out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, it was so
Yeah.
fun. We had a great
The
time.
time goes by super fast, right?
I know.
Yeah,
It does.
You don't realize
Yeah,
that.
at first you're like, oh my god, how are we supposed to talk for an hour? And then
Everybody
it's like, oh.
always says that. Yeah.
No,
You
we
did,
talked
you
for
did
an
a great job with the questions. We've
Yeah,
done a lot
no.
of radio interviews, and they tend to be a lot more loose form.
Really?
It's kind of like,
You did a
talk
good
about
job guiding
this.
it.
Go.
Yeah, no, and it's also like my thoughts, because I have questions, but then you guys say something that I don't have written down,
then you're curious
and
about
I want to
that.
know about
It's
it,
a natural
you know.
curiosity.
So it works like that, and
Cool.
I'm so excited for what's to come, though.
Yeah, no, us too.
Yes.
Like,
Us too.
you guys are doing so much, and what I loved about the building that was the first
one, yeah.
What I had told you, that it was like, this is not South Beach.
This is not South Beach, yeah.
And I love that so much, but I wish it was like, this is not Art Basel, like.
This is not
Yeah.
This is not Art Basel Week.
Yeah.
This is.
I mean, I used to use the hashtag Beyond Basel a lot.
Yeah.
Use
Oh, we should bring
Beyond
that back.
Basel.
Yeah,
yeah.
you should.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I kind of pulled away from that, but that was the thing we used a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's like really nothing against Basel. I mean, they have their thing, they have their crowd. It's just like, it's like if you were going to Checkers and you're like, I'm going to McDonald's. You know,
Right.
it's like at some point, like, you know, other people are branding their things. But I think a lot of fairs, and we're a fair with an identity, which is interesting because a lot of fairs kind of, by virtue of their business model, don't have an identity. It's like more of a trade show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, like Art Miami to me is just like everything. It's just everything put in one place, you know? So I think we really definitely try to be like, this is Superfine.
This is super
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. Awesome.
It was fun.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah, it
you
was
so
really
much.
fun.
Yeah, thank you.
John, may you please stop the video? Good night,
Yeah.
everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.